So let's get today's session started. 10 ways that Fiery tools make VDP easy. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. Giselle de la Mornier, Product Marketing Manager, Hans Sepp, Product Line Manager, and our special guest, Jeremy Diamond, R&D Manager at SendOutCards. So without further delay, let's begin. Giselle, take it away.
Thanks, Yael. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on our second World of Fiery VDP seminar. Got a great agenda for you today. We're going to start out with talking with our special guest, Jeremy Diamond from SendOutCards. Then we'll give an overview of VDP on the Fiery servers, and Hans will present his 11 awesome VDP features on the Fiery server. And then we'll take time for questions and answers. So first off, we will start off with Jeremy Diamond. As Yael mentioned, he is Research and Development Manager at SendOutCards. Jeremy, thanks so much for joining us today. Why don't you tell us a bit about SendOutCards?
Absolutely, I'd love to. SendOutCards is a multi-level marketing company. And we focus on allowing people to act on promptings or feelings that they have when they need to send someone a greeting card, or just when they want to say something to somebody, whether it's a grandma or a coworker or one of your work contacts you just want to follow up with to make sure that you're still on the top of their mind. General stories, SendOutCards started in 2003. We were really small. We started out in the garage. We were pretty much, at that point, just a contact manager. So people would come to us, upload their contacts to us, and then if they actually wanted to follow up and send a greeting card, they would actually come in and either have us design a greeting card for them, and then they could send that out quarterly, annually, semi-annually, however often they wanted to. And from that point, we would then trigger that, but it was all manually done. We would just go in and create their cards one at a time. It was very limited at that time as well. They had one character box, or one text box, which only holds about 80 characters in it. So it was really limited as to what we can do. Fortunately, since then, we've been able to fully automate that process, allowing us to go a lot bigger, and we can now send out tens of thousands of cards fairly easily every day.
Wow, that's a huge growth factor. So what are the key factors that have helped you grow your business?
So honestly, the biggest key factor for us has been personalization. As I said, when we started out, we were one text box and 80 characters. And in order to really truly grow our business, we had to get that into basically giving our customers complete control over their greeting card. So, and we found once we allowed them to do that, that's when our business really started to take off. We did okay. We would do hundreds or a few thousand cards a day with that first system that we set out, where they could do that, where they could send just kind of a generic, oh, hey, thank you for this, thank you for that. But once we allowed them to completely take control of their card, and they could attach kind of more of an emotion to the greeting card, because it was personal to that person that was going to receive it, that's when we really started seeing our business grow as the supplier of the greeting card. So you go online, they create a card, and we mail it out for them. So as soon as we gave them control to do what they wanted with their greeting cards, that's when we saw our growth. So I would say personalization is the biggest key factor to that. And with that, when we went from sending 100 cards a day to 1,000 cards, up to 10, 20, 30,000 cards every day, automation played a huge role in that, because obviously we couldn't do it the way we were doing it before, where we would have someone manually creating those cards and sending them out. We had to automate, and a big piece of that is the software that we use. Some of it's proprietary, but the DFEs also help us quite a bit in making sure that we can shave as much labor off the top of that as we can.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about all the different technology that you've invested in?
Absolutely, we can run through that really quickly. We have 4 IDEN 4s that we have here with the different DFP options on a couple of them. And as far as our storefront, the greeting card, or the website that people actually see, and then the back end that kind of takes care of the money, that's all proprietary to us. Another big piece that we use is XMPie. It does a lot of our, helps us with traffic flow and getting our cards from the digital onto that greeting card.
So speaking of that, why don't you tell us about the procedure from when a user creates a personalized card on your website to when it gets output on your iGens?
Okay, so the first step would obviously be for them just to log into the site, jump on there, and we have a catalog that they can choose from if they don't have something set that they want, or they can choose through our categories. Once they've picked the design that they want, they can then edit that design. They can change it, they can add their own pictures, they can put their own fonts in there. One of those fonts could be their handwriting font if they wanted to do that, and they can do whatever they want in there. And once they've completed their card, they just put it in our hold queue basically, which at midnight every day we pull that here local, basically transferring all of the information and all the assets from our web servers onto our internal servers, where then when our print operators get here in the morning, everything's here ready for them to go, and essentially from there they're going to log into XMPie and they're going to start directing traffic. As far as our operators can see, all they're doing is picking what cards they want and what printers to use, and that's as far as everything else is automated. There's a lot going on in the background, obviously, but they're routed through directly into hot folders from XMPie, so we don't have to manage anything other than just opening that one dashboard. From there, the greeting cards just start printing.
You know, the complete automation of the process really must make your production incredibly efficient. So, which you've got some incredible stats to take us through on that.
Yeah, well, we can read through these really quick as they come across. Our typical volumes, way before, there were a couple thousand a day maybe. Now we're up to 35,000, 40,000 greeting cards every day. During Christmas, those numbers jump up to 250,000, 300,000 per day, which is obviously a lot of images. We don't restrain or restrict how many pictures they can put on, so one greeting card can have as many images as they feel they want to put on there. So some of our cards, we have large cards which can hold several images. We've had over 100 images on a single card before. The contact database, so that's how we started out at SendOutCards, just taking our customers' contacts, and then they're stored there so they can go in and just send a campaign to anyone in a couple minutes. As well as that, they can put their own fonts in there. We do have over 111,000 fonts that we support, and those are mostly just an individual, and my font's in there, so I can go in and type, and it's my handwriting that comes through on that greeting card. And then over the past few years, or since we started, we sent over 107 million greeting cards since we started. But keep in mind that didn't happen just overnight. We started out really small, and most of those numbers, most of that 107 million has actually happened in the past 3 to 4 years.
Wow, those are some serious production stats. So why don't you tell us how the Fiery DFE helps maximize your efficiency and help get all those jobs out quicker?
Yeah, so once we plug in our Fiery, there were quite a few changes that we saw. Obviously, speed is the big one. As I said, we give our customers complete control over their greeting cards. So a lot of them a lot of them are very, very intense files. There's a lot of images, a lot of text. And then we combine their cards with other cards for print. So we get some really, really large files sometimes. So on average, our cards are processing about 10 times faster than with our previous RIP software, as well as in certain cases on those large files, we've had some go from 1 minute on the Fiery as opposed to 30 minutes on our previous solution. So speed was a big one. Another really nice thing with the Fiery is that it starts printing as soon as it has enough to get the printer going, as opposed to storing them all up, caching them, and then unlocking a gate to start printing. And then with the speed, it just keeps up once it has enough ready. So our operators don't have to wait for 15, 20 minutes in order to start printing things. Once they get in, they start sending files. By the time our printer maintenance is ready and done in the morning, they have things printing and they don't have to wait around. And they also don't have to cycle up and down the printers anymore, which is a big thing for us. Think of what else there is. So there's also the Fiery. Also, the big reason that we like it is because it still works with our current setup, which is the VPS work stream that we use. And the big reason we like the VPS is because we can take all of our EPS images, which are our large files that our internal artists created. So that would be the shopping cart, if you will. All of the assets that they make, which are the large files, we can actually pre-rip those, so when a greeting card comes through using that image, it's already pre-ripped. We don't have to worry about them slowing down our system.
Well, that's some great stats for the Fiery. So why don't you tell us some final thoughts on how our audience can, help grow their VDP business the way you have?
Yeah, this one's not on the slideshow, but I'm going to start with it anyway. I think the biggest thing that I've learned as we've done this is just kind of step back and ask yourself what the main objective of the piece that you're trying to send out is. Whether it's a marketing piece, for us it's greeting cards, so for us we needed our customer to have complete control over their greeting card. So if you just take a step back and look at what you're trying to do, would be the first step. Once you've done that and you kind of do that, everything else will be a lot easier. So you can take your thing and then just make sure that your infrastructure can support your growth. Don't try to build something to hold 10 greeting cards when when your overall goal is to send out millions a day. For us, we had to be able to do that. We had to be able to get throughout that. So just make sure your infrastructure is in place to start with, as well as do your homework on all of your products that you're looking into. It's really easy just to get in the same mode of let me call my salesperson and he'll tell me what I need, but really reach out there and find out what's out there for you, because everyone has different options and different pieces. For us, we mentioned VPS workflow is a big one for us, because we can actually take our files, rather than creating a PDF and transferring this really large file, we were able to just basically have XMPie make a blueprint for our product, send it through to the Fiery, which would then compile all the cards, so we don't have to transfer the large file. Everything's already been transferred or set there, so that then your DFE will do all the heavy lifting for us. As an example of one thing that is, so make sure it's going to go with what workflows that you need, what different pieces you want, and as well as test for scalability. When you're working toward a new product, make sure you're testing files and where you are currently and where you want to be. Don't just send out small files and say, okay, it processed it, we're good. We've gotten into trouble there a couple times. So once you go in, just really test the product for what you're going to be doing with it and make sure it's going to work for you.
Jeremy, thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. You have a great story of how you grew your business to be one of the largest first-class mailing companies in the world, and it's a great story on how the Fiery has helped you grow your business. So before I turn it over to Hans, we're actually going to take a few minutes and do a quick poll. So you'll see it coming up on your screen, and if you could take a moment and answer these questions, we'd be very grateful. And with that, I would like to turn it back over to Hans.
Thank you, Giselle, and again, thank you, Jeremy, for sharing how SendOutCards was able to grow to such an amazing volume. For the next part of the session, we would like to tell you why we feel Fiery is our perfect fit in your VDP workflow, and share not 9, not 10, but 11 awesome, innovative, and mostly unique VDP features that in most cases are standard on your Fiery. With that said, let's continue. We will start off with something that we shared during our last session that explored techniques you can use to get started with VDP and cross-media. The simplest method to do this is to understand FreeForm. It's the easiest and fastest method to get started on the Fiery, and it's available on all Fieries. There is no need for special VDP applications to generate content, and you can use your existing application and let the Fiery do all the heavy lifting. Fiery FreeForm uses a page-based caching mechanism. Through our print drivers or our job management application for the Fiery Command Workstation, you will be able to create master pages that will be cached by the Fiery. One can then use the same print driver or via Command Workstation, apply those master pages to a variable document. Simple, easy, and fast. The advantage of using this method is that most of the processing has already been done and that processed resources are available on the Fiery. We will illustrate how to create a VDP workflow using FreeForm later on in this session, so stay tuned. The ingredients for an advanced VDP workflow consists of 3 elements. 1 or more VDP formats. As we learned from the previous session, There is no magic formula that supports all the products you will create. Fiery supports all the leading VDP formats, such as Creo VPS and Xerox VRPP, which are proprietary formats, while PPML and PDF-VT are open and standardized formats. The one thing that sets these formats apart from Fiery FreeForm is that these formats are element-based rather than page-based. Using an element-based VDP language allows for more creativity and increased performance. The Fiery will cache all the VDP elements while processing the VDP job, so that when they are needed again on other pages or other jobs, the cached element is used. A word on PDF-VT. It's an up-and-coming VDP language that is based on PDFX objects. The advantage is that a document can be treated like a regular PDF. For instance, one can open a PDF-VT job in Adobe Acrobat, which makes it very user-friendly with lots of exciting possibilities. We do, however, find that vendors still have some work to do in order to support these advanced features, like transparency, shadow effects, etc. The latest generation of Fiery currently supports PDF-VT 2, which has support for so-called thin VDP jobs, meaning the static content does not have to be included in the main job, but can be referenced from an external location. In the end, it does not matter which VDP format you use or which emitter or third-party application that creates that VDP format. The Fiery allows you to use any combination of them. In the case of SendOutCards, that meant that they did not have to change their main VDP workflow, which is based on VPS. For more info, I would like to invite you to download and read our ABC of VDP, which is part of our ABC series on digital print. On the slide, which we will share after this session, you can see a link to this ABC of VDP. To illustrate, for our VDP white paper, we included performance, and while other DFEs sometimes took hours to process a VDP job with thousands of pages, the Fiery was able to process the same job in 13 minutes. That white paper is available on EFI.com, by the way. For SendOutCards, this means that they can save cost and increase employee happiness by not having the operator come in at 5 in the morning to start processing the jobs, because it took them so long to process them. We will show via our 11 innovative VDP features that only Fiery makes handling VDP jobs for operators truly easy to understand. We will show that for an operator there is no difference in the way they handle VDP jobs or regular static PDFs or PostScript jobs. And most important, Fiery is able to automate VDP workflows using the same principles. We will show you how to create a VDP workflow and expose that workflow to other users in under 5 minutes.
So before we move on to the VDP features that you're going to talk about, let's take a look at the poll results. So it looks like many in our audience are actually Fiery users, which is great to see. As far as the VDP formats, they're kind of all over. What do you think?
Yes, so for those of you who already have a Fiery, I hope that the remainder of this session will give you some better understanding of the VDP capabilities, so stay tuned for that. As for the VDP languages, I see there's a good number of people who is already using FreeForm, and that actually matches the research that's been done by Infotrend, which shows that FreeForm is actually in the top 5 of most used VDP languages. I see that some people are trying to dip their toes in PDF-VT and PPML, so again, stay tuned, and maybe you will also learn something about how the Fiery handles these languages with our user tools. So let's start our list of the 11 awesome innovative VDP features on the Fiery. For our first VDP feature on the Fiery, we will start with VDP Info. VDP Info adds VDP-specific information to the job properties columns in Command Workstation, thereby allowing an operator to identify VDP jobs faster. If enabled, we'll show two additional columns. First one is number of records, which displays the number of records contained in a VDP job. And the second one is pages per record, which displays record length information. Variable record length, that means different records have a different number of pages, are displayed as a range from smallest to largest. Please note that for every feature that we will cover for the remainder of this session, we have a reference to either our available e-learning course on VDP or one of the how-tos that we have created with regards to VDP. In some cases, there is an e-learning course and additional how-tos available. These early e-learning courses and how-tos will allow you to get started exploring these features when you want to. We'll provide samples, we'll provide detailed how-to guides in order to get you started as quickly as possible. So how does VDP info work? Here I'm importing a number of jobs. In this case, that's just the number of static jobs, static PDFs jobs, importing them to the hold queue. And you'll notice that it's very difficult to identify which job is a VDP job and which job is a static job. If you right-click on the column header in Command Workstation and enable VDP set, you will see that we will add these two columns. One is records, and you will see that the Fiery is able to identify the number of records in a VDP job, and the other column is pages per record, which the Fiery has identified while importing a VDP job. So that information is available once you import that job. You can see that for the first job, there are 2,000 pages. Sometimes you need to expand the column somewhat, but you can see there are 2,000 pages which are created as a result of a 1,000 record job with 2 pages per record. You will also see for the store setup guide that are 174 pages, which consists of 9 records with a variable number of pages per record, in this case from 12 up to 28 or something in between. We hopefully all know that for critical jobs, Preflight helps you to identify issues. If during Preflight no errors or warning have been found, chances are that Fiery will be able to process and print the jobs without any issues. This is a well-established process in a PDF workflow, but how do you Preflight a VDP job? Most VDP emitters are able to ensure all resources are included when creating the VDP job. But how do they handle the quality of the external resources? And remember, processing a VDP job can be a very expensive phase in a VDP workflow. Expensive in the sense that large VDP jobs sometimes require considerable time to process. So you want to make sure that process is done in the fastest way possible without errors. If the quality of one of the images does not meet expectations, you will only find that out after the document has been processed and printed. Enter VDP Preflight on the Fiery. VDP Preflight adds VDP-specific checks for VDP jobs, in addition to the ability to preflight all external resources on resolution, spot color, fonts, hairlines, etc. In this example, I've selected a PDF VT2 job and I've selected Preflight, just like I would on any other PDF or PostScript document on the Fiery. You will see that we have added VDP-specific checks. In this case, it shows that VDP resources are missing. I can save this Preflight document, I can print this Preflight document, and so that I can share this with people responsible, or I can take corrective measures to fix this issue. So how do we fix this? Continuing our overview, we are at the third VDP feature on the Fiery, File Search Path. Our previous example showed VDP Preflight failed because external resources were missing. File Search Path allows operators to specify locations where external VDP resources can be found. The benefit here is that external resources can be found on a job-by-job basis, so that the Fiery can find the required resources faster and thereby process the document faster. File search path can be associated with hot folders, so that you can automate different types of jobs that require a different set of external resources. File search path is supported for all VDP languages that support the so-called thin VDP format, such as PPML, VPS, and PDF-VT2. If I open the document again that just filled in Preflight, check the properties, and under the VDP tab you will see there is an entry for file search path. If I process and hold this job, it will fill, because again we found through Preflight that it can't find the external resources. Since we've pre-flighted this document, you can see in the lower right hand corner that we have access to that pre-flight report, so that you can identify the missing resources or find any issues for the external resources. If I want to correct this, I take the file, enter the file search path, process and hold again, and you will now see that the document is processed correctly, since it can find the external resources. One thing to note is that the Fiery, once you start using external resources, you can access them either on the Fiery directly, so you save the external resources on a folder on the Fiery, or you can access them through a shared network folder. Please note that the Fiery needs to have access to that shared network folder, otherwise it will still present an error that it can't access the external resources. So we all know your engines never ever have media jams. We all know every time you finish a job offline, the finished product is always perfectly finished. In your print shop, accidents like this never happen. Just in case, for the few people on this session, just in case it does happen, we have a feature called Job Slug, or Job Header with VDP Info, that will allow you to identify sheets that need to be reprinted in a much more effective manner. When enabled, VDP Info is shown in the Job Slug. Apologies. We will show sheet number, record set, and record ID, and you can use these properties to reprint your VDP job. Which brings me to the fifth VDP feature on the Fiery, which is called record reprint. Again, we all know it doesn't happen in your print shop, but when you do need to reprint sheets from a VDP job, record reprint will allow an operator to reprint sections in the job based on sheet number or record number. The screenshot I'm showing here shows job properties for a VDP document, and you will see that we have enabled the ability to set records, which is a range, which is a record or a range of records, and sheets, which is a sheet or a range of sheets. 6 on our list of 11 VDP features on the Fiery is support for VDP jobs in Fiery Impose. It allows an operator to impose VDP jobs the same way as they would static jobs, using the same tools and the same methods. What makes Fiery Impose such an incredible tool for VDP jobs is that the Fiery will create thumbnails so that the operator is able to impose VDP jobs by using a visual reference to prevent mistakes or optimize the layout of the imposed documents. When using Fiery Impose with VDP jobs, in addition to the impose methods like booklets, we have additional support for cut and stack and multi-op booklet. Fiery Impose supports all VDP languages, including Fiery FreeForm. In this example, we'll take a VPS document and select Impose. You can use the demo for those of you who do not have an imposed license. You can also use the demo feature in Fiery Impose to explore this feature. What I'm showing here is a 9-record document with a variable number of pages per record. Fiery Impose will show the number of sheets per record. And since this is a fairly small job, I can select all the records. And you will see that there's Fiery Impose has indication for the number of records and the sheets per record. And when I create my imposition template, it will automatically adjust the number of sheets per record. I can select other records, and you will notice that since there is a different number of pages per record, Fiery Impose will automatically impose it in such a way and add pages to make sure that it matches the imposition method. If I select the preview button, Fiery will quickly create thumbnails. So it's not processing the file, the entire file, it's only processing the records that we need. And once the thumbnails are available, Fiery Impose will then show this VDP job using these thumbnails, thereby allowing the operator to have a visual reference for his VDP job. He can change the layout, he can change settings, and in this case I would like to, for the Fiery Impose will use the thumbnails and reorder them as needed. And when I go back to my booklet imposition and select a bigger sheet size, because I would like to use the jobs log VDP info, select a bigger sheet size, enable the jobs log by going and select marks. I would like to have trim marks. I would like to have a job label. Select everything. I can also select registration marks if needed. Select OK, and you will see that Fiery Impose has added this information in the layout view. And you can see here the jobs log, the VDP jobs log that Fiery Impose has added for this VDP job. I can close it, save it. The imposition template will be assigned to this job, and then I can then continue processing and printing this job. During the last session about getting started with VDP, we explained how to use existing tools like InDesign to personalize and create variable data documents without using a third-party application. One challenge is that Adobe InDesign will create standard PDFs, but without the notion of records. So how do you tell the Fiery to treat these static documents like a variable data document? The seventh feature we would like to share is define record length. By setting define record length in job properties, we can have the Fiery treat this document as a VDP document where the number of pages per record is set by the value for define record length. This example shows a document that has been created as the result of personalization through InDesign. You can see it's a 24-page document, which actually consists of 3 records with 8 pages. So there are 3 booklets in this. So when I open Job Properties, go to my VDP tab, there's the ability to set define record length. In this case, I set define record length to 8 pages. Click OK, and you can see that Fiery now will treat this document like a 3-record document with 8 pages per record. I can then impose it, apply mixed media, etc. So you have pre-flighted the variable data job. You made sure all the external resources were available. You imposed the documents using Fiery Impose, and you're ready to start production of your VDP job. If you have processed the documents before printing, using VDP Raster Preview allows you to soft-proof your output before printing. VDP Raster Preview offers the same record-based and sheet-based navigation that we demoed in our Fiery Impose. So when you have processed your document and open this job in Preview, you will see that we use a similar method. On the left-hand side, there's a records, number of pages per record, and in the bottom you are able to navigate based on records or based on sheets. As Jeremy mentioned earlier during this presentation, the ability to process and cache VDP resources has allowed them to significantly increase performance. For our 9th feature on the list, we would like to introduce the Fiery VDP Resource Manager. It shows the operator all the resources that the Fiery has cached so that they can, depending on the configuration of the VDP job, be reused for other jobs. Like other VDP features, it supports all the VDP languages the Fiery supports. In addition to the ability to manage these cached resources by deleting them or making a backup or doing a restore, it's also a great way to check how well your VDP solution has optimized the VDP structure of your job. Support for cached resources allows you to gain significant increases in production efficiency. For our 10th feature, we'll show you how easy one can create a VDP workflow and expose that VDP workflow to other users. I will show how to configure a FreeForm master, expose that FreeForm master via virtual printers, create a print queue on the client, and use that FreeForm master via the print queue. For this example, I'm going to demo a workflow that we also use internally. That is how to print our Fiery Expert certificates. So I've preloaded the Fiery Expert certificate master document on the Fiery. And if I open it in preview, you can see that's a fairly heavy document with high resolution images and shadow and transparency effects. If I open job properties again, I can set the correct media for this master document, and when I switch to the VDP tab, I will be able to assign this document to a FreeForm master slot. In this case, I'm going to use number 5. When I process and hold this document, again, it's going to take a few seconds because it's a fairly heavy document, the Fiery will assign this master document to the 5th slot in our FreeForm master. In order to expose this workflow to other users, I'm going to create a virtual printer. And in order to do that, I'm going to create a job properties preset. If I select the same document again, and that is to prevent a mismatch in job properties, rather than creating a user, I'm going to select that master document. I'm going to save this as a job properties preset. When I click OK, I'm going to switch to Device Center. Under VDP Resources, you will see that the master document has been created and you can manage them from there. And you will see that a job preset is now available called Certificate under the Workflows tab. The magic button here is Add as Virtual Printer. So I can name this. I'm going to use certificate as the same name for my virtual printer. I'm going to select the action. For demo purposes, I'm going to use process and hold, but in your environment that would be print. Select OK. Switch back to my job overview so that we can see jobs coming in. I'm going to add a print driver that points to my freshly created virtual printer. So in this case, it's on my Mac OS X laptop. I'm going to add a driver. I'm going to add a print queue, which is geared towards Fiery Color 1, the engine that we're using. For the name, I'm going to use the same name as the virtual printer. I'm going to name my print queue, and in this case, I'm using a very simple print driver because I've locked all the other job properties in my Fiery. If I switch to my application that I'm going to use to define my variable layout, I open Microsoft Word, and this is a very simple layout. And just to test this, I'm going to print it to my certificate printer, switch back to Command Workstation to see the end result. You can see it's already been processed. It takes a couple of It doesn't even take a second because all the heavy lifting has already been done by the Fiery. Now if I want to personalize the certificate, I'm going to enter the correct name, enter the correct expiration date for this document, and print it again. Again, the end user doesn't need to know how this needs to be printed or what master document they need to use. They only need to print from Word to the certificate print queue, and then again the Fiery will do all the heavy lifting of processing this file, combining the file, selecting the correct print job properties. You can see here that it has created my certificate. In this case, unfortunately it's upside down, but I can use Image Viewer, which we also use to soft-proof regular documents. I can use my Image Viewer application to soft-proof my Fiery Expert certificate. For the 11th and bonus feature, we would like to introduce Enhanced FreeForm. Before Enhanced FreeForm, people who used multi-page master documents had to create variable layouts which matched the number of pages that were used by the master document. With Enhanced FreeForm, you are able to tell the Fiery to map your variable pages to a master page document in a multi-page FreeForm document. It simplifies the layout. So if I only, in the next example, we will show you how to use 2 variable pages and map those to an 8-page FreeForm master. It simplifies the variable document layout, and it greatly reduces the variable document file size and makes it easier to use. In this example, I'll show you how to set up the FreeForm master. In this case, it's an 8-page FreeForm master, and I would like to personalize the first page and the last page. So when I zoom into the last page, you'll notice that there's an address area and there's room for a coupon. Using the same methodology we used for the previous example, I'm going to create a master document, and it doesn't matter which slot you assign to this master document. Process the document so that the Fiery is able to cache it and save it as a FreeForm master. And since this is a fairly graphic intensive 8-page master, it will take a few seconds to process this file. Once it's processed, I can select the variable layout. If I open the preview for this variable layout, you will see that it's a multi-page document. So this is your variable layout for multiple recipients, and we want to assign this to the 8-page master FreeForm. If I close this, go back, and again use the same methodology we used for creating the FreeForm to consume the FreeForm master in the previous example. Rather than create, I'm going to select the FreeForm master, and in my Enhanced FreeForm dialog, I will tell the Fiery how many variable pages per record and how many pages of the master record I would like to use. In this case, it's all. And then using the configuration options in my Enhanced FreeForm dialog, I'm able to move or able to map the individual pages, the individual variable pages to my master document. I can select any combination, so I don't have to necessarily assign them in a specific order. When I press OK, 2 things will happen. First, we will basically do the same as with define record length. So we'll divide the variable document up into records of 2 pages or 8 pages in this case, and we will map the correct page against the correct master page. So we'll see from the example, the first page is personalized, and this is your VDP Raster Preview. So you can see the individual records that have been created by Enhanced FreeForm. You will see that the first page has been personalized with the first name and last name, and you will see that the last page has the correct address details and the coupon that is applicable for this record. To summarize, why Fiery and VDP? Only a Fiery works with all the standard leading formats and leading third-party applications that emit these VDP formats. The Fiery has a very powerful method and very powerful architecture that allows for caching of your variable data elements, thereby increasing production speed significantly. Most VDP tools are standard on all Fiery servers, especially Fiery FreeForm. Again, it's a very simple yet very powerful method to get started with VDP, and it's available on all Fiery servers. And I hope we showed that with the 11 features and examples we showed, that when it comes to usability and automation, the Fiery is in a league of its own. With that, I will hand it over back to Giselle.
Thank you, Hans. So again, for the majority of our audience listening in today that has a Fiery server, we hope you learned a few new tips and tricks today that you may not have known before. And for the percentage of our audience that doesn't have a Fiery, we hope this was a good introduction into all the VDP capabilities that the Fiery can offer for you. So to further your knowledge on VDP, as Hans mentioned earlier, we do have our ABCs of VDP guide that's available on our website. Hans also talked quite about Fiery FreeForm, and we've actually put a kit together that provides a lot of sample files along with how-to guides so that you can practice on your own all the different ways and applications that you can utilize FreeForm. We also have a comprehensive VDP solutions presentation where we give you, again, an overview of all the different ways you can utilize FreeForm along with all the other VDP features found throughout our different Fiery systems. And finally, we encourage you to visit our Fiery forums where you can interact with your peers as well as EFI staff to answer questions about VDP, Command Workstation, or just about anything Fiery you can think of. So as you saw during Hans's presentation, we've paired up our 11 awesome VDP features along with the corresponding e-learning courses or how-to guides. As a reminder, everyone who registered for today's session has access to our 3 VDP courses in our e-learning bundle. No need to furiously write all this information down now. You will receive the login information in an email following today's webinar. And as a special thank you to all of our dedicated listeners who joined both of our VDP sessions, we're excited to offer you 10% off of a Fiery Professional certification. So if you want to capitalize on the knowledge and experience that we gave you today, we offer you the chance to take that to the next level and become a Fiery Certified Pro. So again, we will send you information via email following today's webinar. And our World of Fiery webinars do not end today. Our next one will be held in September, and it will be the foolproof preparation of a digital print job. So in this session, we'll identify frequent design challenges for document preparation of very common jobs such as business cards, booklets, catalogs, etc. So we'll show you some tools that will help simplify the document design as well as dramatically shorten job preparation time as well as best practices for designing and creating documents. So if you haven't already registered for this session, we encourage you to do so and hope you will join us in September. And if you want to further your EFI knowledge beyond all things Fiery, we invite you to learn from our MIS and web-to-print experts in these upcoming webinars covering Radius, Monarch, Digital Storefront, etc. So for more information on these, please visit our website. And our one-stop shop for all things Fiery is our Fiery Resources page, where you can get access to all of the how-to guides we mentioned today, as well as a jumping-off point to our e-learning, as well as information on Fiery servers and all of our different options. So please join us there. And with that, we would like to open it up for questions and answers.
All right. So we have some questions coming in, so let's get started. We don't have much time, so I think we'll have time for just a few here.
So the first question is to explain what are emitters. So in our slide where we show the different ingredients for a VDP workflow, we mentioned that you need a VDP format and you need a VDP emitter. The definition of a VDP emitter is the application that ultimately creates your VDP job based on languages like Xerox, VAPP, VPS, PPML, or PDF VT2. So you need these documents to combine all the elements with a layout and create that job in that particular format. So those are emitters. So for our next question, please explain the difference between FreeForm 1 and FreeForm 2. That's actually a very good question. So we have different types of FreeForm formats. The first format is FreeForm 1 or Enhanced FreeForm, which is where we provide you with all the tools via job properties or via hot folders or virtual printers, where you can create a master document and you can use that master documents to be combined with variable layouts. That's completely driven by the Fiery, and there is not much control, there's not much further intelligence built in. It's basically combining a master document with a variable overlay. FreeForm 2 is not available as a drop-down menu or a tick box on the Fiery. FreeForm 2 is actually a VDP language that uses FreeForm as its main principal architecture. So you will need an application, and the application which has always been supporting FreeForm 2 in the best way is an application which is called Print Shop Mail. Maybe many of you have the CD or the DVD still lying around in a drawer somewhere. So if you have it and you want to use FreeForm 2, please use that application to get started. And then for the final question, I've had problems in the past creating a multi-page master in FreeForm. Am I doing something wrong, or are multi-page masters not supported? Multi-page masters are most definitely supported, but there is a kind of geeky setting on the Fiery, depending on the generation of Fiery you will have, that defines how multi-page masters are used on the Fiery. And I will, in the information that we will share as a follow-up for this session, I will explain that particular setting and how to use it and when to use that setting, which is in Fiery Configure.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we've run out of time. There are still questions coming in. So if we didn't get to your question, we do apologize, but we promise to include answers in an FAQ so everybody could take advantage of all the wonderful information, and we'll also get back to you individually so you have answers to your specific questions. With that, I want to thank our audience for joining us, and of course thank all of our speakers, Giselle, Hans, and Jeremy, for taking time to share all this wonderful information about VDP. And until September, we'll talk to you then.